Morning, we're going to be tying a new favorite March Brown Nymph pattern. Came up with this a couple of years ago and have been fishing it and had really good success with it. It's the 1150 March Brown Nymph. 1150 is the name of the hook, but it's also kind of a nice time to tie on Nymph and fish it for the March Brown hatch. It's a Daiichi hook, kind of a natural bend to it. I've got an 1/8 inch tungsten bead on here, black. I tie this in size 10 and also in size 12. If I was going to tie it in a size 12, I'd probably use a 7/64 tungsten bead on it instead. I've got some 8/0 camel uni thread here. I'm going to start behind the bead, laying a nice little base layer of thread. I'm going to go down onto the bend of the hook. I want to make sure that I give myself a nice sized body that's got a little bit of a bend to it, but I also want to make it so that I've got some room to get the hook out if we do get into some fish. And that way you're not going to, molest the body too bad. So I've got a pheasant tail here that I'm going to make the tail fibers out of. We're going to have about 6 to 8 of those in there. And again, the naturals don't have that many, but it's nice to have the ability to catch a couple fish on it without it looking real ratty. So I've got about 6 to 8 pieces of pheasant tail here. I'm going to measure those out to be approximately the same length as the shank. And I'm going to tie those in right there at the back. Snip off my excess. Just wrap that in just a bit more. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some brown uni wire, ultra wire. We're going to take about 3 inches of that. This is the small size. Brassy would work as well. We're going to use this for reinforcement and segmentation. Got about 2.5 to 3 inches there. I'm going to tie that in right down the whole hook shank. When I tie this wire in, generally speaking, because these March Browns have such a wide profile in the Nymph, oftentimes in the old patterns they were tied kind of in the round. What I do is I just lay this wire on the side of the hook shank to help build up that little bit slightly broader profile of the naturals. Wrap that wire down nice and tight. Always check your wire when you're doing this. Nothing worse than getting ready to rib your body and find that the wire slips out. I've got some Australian possum I'm going to dub the abdomen out of. Just take that, make a nice little dubbing noodle. That noodle's usually 2.5 inches long, something like that. I'm going to wrap that forward. We're going to take that abdomen to just about the halfway point. And again, we want a nice broad abdomen. We're going to just take that rib through there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wing case. This is a piece of cinnamon turkey. You can use it as is. I like to usually coat mine with Softex. Makes a little bit more durable wing case. I'm going to cut off probably 1/4 of an inch, something like that, piece. I'm going to tie this with the kind of colored side facing down. That way when we flip it up, we've got that nice mottled color on there. Just kind of wrap that back onto the thorax. Take a bit more of the possum dub to build up the chest section, thorax section. I'm just going to wrap that forward, build up a little bit bigger diameter than in your abdomen. Looks like I'd use just a bit more. There we go. So now I've got my thread kind of just hanging down below. I'm going to take some tan UV ice dub. We don't need a lot of this. We're just going to use it as like a little bit of color flash. but also kind of like the illusion of a wing peeking through that wing case. So I dub like a small noodle of that material. I pull the thread up onto the top section of the body, and I just push that entire noodle down and kind of collapse it down along the hook shank and then wrap it off. So now I've got this kind of bulb of that UV material in position, so that when I fold the wing case over, it's got a little color and a little bit of the idea of some wings. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a natural India henback, select a nice little feather out of there. I love these feathers because they've got this, you know, for March Brown, I mean, this speckling here just is, it's pretty much spot on. So I'll clip off that kind of funky stuff in the back, get rid of that webby material, tie this feather so that the cup side's facing down towards the hook shank. I'm going to take my hackle pliers. We don't want to have a huge amount of hackle tied on here. 2-3 wraps, you know, is probably plenty. Got that tied off. Now in kind of classic wet fly fashion, we're just going to separate that down and out of the way. We're going to fold that wing case over. So now the wing case is in place. We've got those little pads of UV ice dub sticking out the side. To finish it, you know, I've got a little bit of space in between the bead and where I tied off the wing case. I'll just take a little bit more of the possum. Bead's nice and jammed now. Take my whip finisher. So there you have it. There's a finished 1150 March Brown Nymph. One of my favorites. Again, I hope it's one of yours too.